What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. So for today's episode, we will run through on how to generate our own QR code, scan it, and it adds to your items, list of items for say receipt or invoice generation. So this is going to be a very thorough tutorial. So please grab a coffee or snacks or any drinks and enjoy the journey. It's going to be slightly longer than usual, but I promise you it's going to be well worth your time. So without further ado, let's check it out. All right, guys. So to start off with our QR scanner app for your, say, retail business or any QR scan related activities. So to start off this sort of journey, what I have with me today is a sample of some products I have. So in my products table, we have the product ID. So this is very, very important. I'll explain to you why this is important shortly later. And we have the item name. All right. So I think by now you should know that this is actually some golf equipment. And since I play golf a lot, this is something very relatable to me. And the quantity with the price. And here you'll find a QR code column with some URL. And this is actually a QR code that I've generated from QuickChart. So QuickChart is actually a very resourceful site where you can generate charts and QR codes using their API. So moving on next, we have the transaction. So transaction is the main receipt ID. Means for every time you want to open up a new transaction for multiple items, you will have to open up your transaction first. So here I have the transaction ID, date, customer ID, total amount, timestamp, and status. And last but not least, I have the items table. So items table is basically the items that you want to scan through and add into a list for a particular transaction. So that's why you will see there is a transaction ID here. So next to it will be the QR code, the item name, quantity, price, and line total. All right. So once you have this sort of ready, then we can move on to create the Appsheet application. Well, as you all know, due to time, of course, I won't build this app from scratch, but I will run you through what I've done so that you can sort of replicate what I've did and try to make this app to work for your case. So right now with me, I have these three tables that I shared from the spreadsheet earlier. The first table that you want to have a look is the products table. So of course we have the product ID, the name, the quantity, price, and barcode. And most importantly, you want to have a look at the barcode column. Set it to image. Of course, that's where you want to display the QR code. And the formula that I'm using, of course, the formula will differ according to which API service that you're using. So for my case, I'm using quickchart.io. I mean, for testing, for trying this proof of concept, you can try this as well, where you URL for the API, which is https://quickchart.io/QR with a question mark, text. And here I'm adding the encode URL because we want to sort of add the parameters into the URL. And this is where I'm taking the product ID from the products table so that when the URL is created, let's say here, you can see the product ID is added into the URL as well. So this is a quick way to try on how to create the QR code. All right, so next would be the transactions table. So similar to products, just follow the column name and type, you should be fine. There is, however, the timestamp, which is the date time. So this is something important as well, which I will run you through later. And of course, the status, whether this transaction is still open or closed. The total amount. So the total amount is basically you want to add the total of all the items that you have for this particular transaction. So this is the expression that you want to use so that you will get the overall total amount that needs to be paid for the multiple items added for that transaction. So basically it's taking from the items table, and whichever items that consist the same transaction ID will be added into the total. But that's where we have the sum function ready for us. And of course, related items is automatically generated from the items table. I'll show to you later. And the receipt file, which we will cover shortly, which is the PDF file that's been generated. So moving on to items table. Of course, we will need to have the perhaps items ID later next time. So temporarily I'm using key, the row number as key, but please don't use this. It's not really the best practice. But since this is just a demo, I'll just use it for now. Now we have the transaction ID as a reference. So referencing it back to transactions table, all right? So that when we open up the transaction, you will see the related items for that particular transaction. I'll show it to you later. Next, we have the barcode. Okay. So this barcode is where we'll have the QR scan function. So to make sure this works, if you edit this column and if you scroll right to other properties, make sure the scannable option is selected so that we can use a barcode scanner to fill this column. All right, so next will be the item name. So the item name is where we want it to automatically fill based on the barcode that we scan. So that's why you see here, there's a lookup function where it will take this row referenced by the barcode column, which is the column that we just covered earlier. And it will search into the products table. And since we are scanning the barcode for the product ID, it will reference it the same with the product ID from the products table. Okay. So once there is a match, it will return the item name. Okay, that's why this is for name. And you can copy the same expression and put it at price as well, so that when there's a match between the product ID scanned through the barcode, it will return the price as well. And of course, for line total, it's quite straightforward. The quantity of the item times with the price, then you should get the line item total. Okay. So that's why you can see here, there is a products table with the respective items. So if I were to add a new product, okay, you can see here the barcode is having error because you are missing the variable text. So the variable that we have decided to link in our product to the API is the product ID. Okay. So once I add my product ID, say 1005, there you go. The QR code is automatically generated. So let's add some details to this product ID. Let's say let's put a golf ball here. It's one of the most desired golf ball in the golf universe. So, and we click save, and you see all the QR codes are nicely put with their respective items. Okay, so if I were to add a new transaction, okay, let's say I add a new transaction. Immediately you will see the transaction ID is generated. So for this to be automatically generated, it's important to use a formula. And the formula that I'm using is concatenate. So you just put any sort of unique identifier, or sorry, prefix. So my prefix here is TX, stands for transaction. And I'm using the time, the date and time, which is now. And of course, returning it with the year, month, and day, with the hour, minute, and seconds. So that's why when you see my transaction ID is actually the year, the month, and the date, with the time, the minute, the hour, the minute, and seconds. So this is sort of unique in a way. And of course, when we add our customer ID, let's just add any. I mean, we can do a proper one for customer ID. But for this purpose or this demo, I'm just going to put a very random ID. Oh, okay, I think we should not be using total amount here. We'll remove it because we have the total amount virtual column instead. So please ignore this total amount. I forgot to remove it. And the status is open because the status initial value, I've set it to open for the transaction table. Okay. So now let's click on save. So here you will see um, the transaction ID detail, the transaction details, sorry, with the related items. So to get this sort of view after you create the transaction is sort of easy. If you go to your views in transaction, right at, where is it? Let me just have a look. Oh, sorry. In transaction form, here, the finish view that you want for this to be smooth, once you have followed all the steps earlier. So the finish view that you want for your transaction form would be the transactions detail. I'll show it to you. I'll share to you why this is important for me personally, because I want to see the transaction ID, the transaction details, sorry, with the related items here. Okay. So of course the receipt file, we can hide it first until this status is closed, but I forgot to do it for this demo, but we'll do it next time. It's fine. But if I were to add the item here, so immediately you can see the transaction ID is being brought to the items form. Now, how do I do this? It's quite straightforward. So in your items and transaction ID, in your auto compute, you want to take the latest and the latest transaction ID created, because you cannot have by right, supposedly if you're handling a cashier, you cannot handle two customers in one at one time. So of course, when there is an open transaction, means it will take the latest transaction. Okay. Of course, there are many ways to handle this. So this is one of the easiest way for me. So now this transaction is being taken because we have just created earlier, and that's the latest one. So we can use the barcode here because we have set it as scannable. Okay. So it's either you can scan the barcode or use the product ID. Say if I put a product ID here, so it detects as the Callaway AI smoke driver, and that's the price. So if I were to put the quantity here, oh sorry, you should have actually buy one, it's fine. And you click save, then immediately you can see the related items here. So you have the Callaway AI smoke driver. All right. So of course, this view is in cards view. You can actually change it to say table view. So you're in your transaction. Oh, sorry. So in your items, you can use table. So in your transaction, you can see all the related items here properly. Okay, let's save it for now. Okay, so this is the reason why we want to use reference. That's number one, so that when there is a reference of the transaction ID for this transaction ID in transaction table, it will display other items or any other tables that has a same reference of that particular transaction ID. So that's why you can see this ID is also here, and that's why it's showing in one page because it's a reference. By doing a reference, it will automatically generate a virtual column. So in your transaction, you can see related items here. This is automatically generated since we have in items table, under transaction ID, we have set it as the reference. Okay, so this gives you like a seamless experience when using this feature. And when you want to add more items, can just simply click on add here. Okay. So once we close this, or actually, let's demonstrate this using mobile view, because the QR code or scanner, however, without the right tool, you can't use it from your desktop view. It has to be done through your mobile. So let's give this a try. All right, so let's say I have my mobile device here. So we want to simulate the use of QR code through our mobile device. So of course, the first thing to do is to create the transaction. Let's create a new one. Customer ID, let's say, oops, 90009. Again, please ignore the total amount here. We will remove it because we are using the virtual column total amount. And of course, let's click on save. Now the sort of transaction is open. And of course, what we want to do is we want to add the items. So I'm adding the items right now. Okay. So let's simulate a QR scan. And say, for example, oops, I'll be scanning Okay, the first one, Callaway. So it detects the Callaway AI smoke driver. Let's take one, save. Let's add a new one. Cobra 1 lang irons. One. Right. So far, so good. And the other one. Oh, no. Sorry. Discard this. Again, because the QR code is stacked to each other. Okay, snake bite. Again, this is just to show that how this works. So, of course, now you see the items are properly placed right below the transaction table for this particular transaction ID. And of course, we can close it. So once it's closed, if I were to open up this file, I'm just going to refresh it for no reason. So if you were to open up the receipt file, well, I think it's my Wi-Fi. It's a bit long. We can turn off the Wi-Fi, I guess. Or maybe it's still generating. So now you can see the receipt is generated. All right. And again, this is very basic receipt, so please apologize for my design. But in part 2, we will cover on how to sort of properly generate the PDF file. And I remember a lot of you have been asking me how to generate the PDF file. So I did a previous video on that, but I guess there are some of you are still facing issues with it. But don't worry, in this part 2, we will run through again. And I guess I might have missed out some important points for that. And we will cover it in the part 2 video very, very soon. So reason why I'm cutting it in parts is so that this video won't drag for so long. Of course, I personally don't prefer doing long videos, but again, it's necessary. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this part 1 video. We'll move on to part 2 very soon. The next one will be part 2. So stay tuned. If you like this video, don't forget to drop a like and let me know what else you have in mind in the comment section down below. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. I will appreciate it very much. So until the next one, take care. Bye-bye.